Oh my God, the Urine Bandit strikes again. What is happening in Portland?
I know, more pee-pee in people's recycling bins. I think we should try and crack the case ourselves.
And if that's not weird enough, a couple was caught having sex on top of a grave.
Right? And the weird thing is that the public fornication isn't even what they're in trouble for.
We've also got emotional support tigers, a lawyer being physically thrown out of court, and our Anne Emerson reports from the Doomsday Mom's latest murder trial. I'm senior producer Autumn Kalika, and this is Criminally Obsessed.
This is not your everyday story.
We talked about this outrageous story on last week's show. I did not expect that we would be talking about this again, but here we are.
Bottles of, again, what appear to be urine have been left in recycling bins in the same neighborhood since September. And tonight we are learning it happened again today.
So a repeat recycling of urine. Megan, tell us what is going on.
Autumn, look at this. A Portland woman this week found these 6 bottles of what appears to be urine with her recycling. This is after others have found, 6 bottles of urine in their recycling too. The woman was so freaked out by it, she didn't even want to go on camera for an interview.
It feels very violating. It's not something that you want. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to deal with it.
Understandable. Very understandable. So, Megan, what is law enforcement doing to find the culprit?
I have tried to call a lot of people about this because I've been curious about it myself. I called the Portland police. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get in contact with them. I called the news station that was running the story, and we don't exactly know at this point the level of police involvement. We do know that Alex Van Dyne, the guy who we did the original story on a week ago, he did file a police report. So there are police involved, but I think it's just complicated at this point because they have no leads as to who's doing it. I mean, people have Ring doorbells and everything that caught the guy on camera, but they don't have a license plate. So it's kind of a whodunit at this point.
So what are the similarities between these cases? Can you give us any of those? Do we think it's the same person?
I know there's always that chance that it's is it the same guy leaving urine? Is it a copycat urine bandit? Which God forbid. But there are some similarities that have me thinking that it's the same person, and a lot of people thinking it's the same person. So this person also left their urine in the same whole milk jugs that the other bandit had been using. He's left the same amount of jugs. He's also been leaving them in recycling, and he's also leaving them in the same neighborhood. So we assume it's the same guy, but I can't say for 100%.
I mean, Eric, what would you do if this happened to you?
I would start questioning my own reality at that point. Kind of like why is this happening to me? What have I done? And I have my own little theory. It's not good, but it's a theory. Have we checked out the idea that this man is just a vengeful ghost a la Freddy Krueger, where he is taking his vengeful rage out on this row of people. He probably used to live in the neighborhood, was killed by them, and is killed with piss. He's actively haunting them.
Killed with piss?
Killed with urine, yes. And
How's
actively
that
is trying to haunt them day in and day out by giving them more and more urine, the same urine that was used to kill him. This is my theory. It's not good, but it's a theory.
Look, we can get DNA from urine, right? I read that DNA lasts about 28 days after it leaves your body. Also, we've got bottles. We could get fingerprints from there. Should we just go there and do this ourselves?
But what if this guy is in what if he's not in any sort of database and this is his first crime, which, what a crime to start with if you're going to get into it, honestly.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. No, I definitely think from what I learned at crime camp, I know how to fingerprint now. I can figure out how to test DNA. I think we should go be vigilantes and crack this case, you guys.
I think so. And I think I just have one last question about this, Megan. Mm-hmm. So I think urine's considered a biohazard, right? So you can't recycle it, but they're not putting them in the trash. So what are these people doing? Are they just waiting an entire week for a garbage pickup, or what's the status of the urine?
I don't know how every person is handling the urine individually, but we do know that Alex Van Dyne had to take care of it himself. It was in his recycling bin. They refused to collect the entire bin because of that. So he had to put on some gloves, get out the jugs, and he poured the urine into the toilet where it kind of belonged in the first place.
That's so gross.
And if I had to do that, oh my God.
That probably smells so bad. Ugh.
Eric, you've got a case that involves probably one of the creepiest Lover's Lane stories that I have possibly ever heard of in my entire life, okay? So it's like risky enough when people are getting it on in public to begin with, but there is a whole other level of creepiness and craziness to this story. Please tell us what happened in Florida that day.
I've heard a lot of stories coming from Florida. This is a first for me. We got 2 people banging in a graveyard. How did this happen? I'll tell you. So,
Okay.
A few cops were driving around near the cemetery when they noticed that there was a Nissan parked in front of it. And they were like, okay, that's kind of weird because the cemetery was closed. It was literally locked up. They go to the car and they notice that it's rolled down, or the windows are rolled down. No one's in it. And that's kind of a red flag for them. Like anybody looking at that would say, okay, somebody must have hopped the fence and went to the graveyard. So they go into the back of it and they notice 2 people. We have 46-year-old Stephanie K. Wegman and Joseph Luke Brown getting it on, engaging in sexual activity from what they said. And the fun part about these 2 is that Wegman is married, but she's not married to Brown. So this is a full-on exposing of an affair going on with this story as well.
So basically what you're telling us is a married woman was having a little tryst with her side piece on
Yes.
top of a grave.
Yeah. Low-key the most goth thing that you can do, but like at the same time, no goth person that I know would actually stoop this far. The most we do is smoke cigarettes at graveyards and wander around. Now, if you're wondering whether or not these 2 were charged, first of all, weird thing about Florida, it is illegal to have sex in public.
Understandably.
Yeah, it files under like what is it, indecent exposure, especially like if you do it in the vicinity of like a minor or even with a minor. Like that's a way worse case. But these 2 weren't even charged for that. They were actually only charged with drug charges because what happened was they ended up going back to their car and finding meth in the passenger seat. And then when they checked Wegman's bag, they ended up finding 2 bottles of Oxy and Xanax. So she's basically charged with the possibly distributing oxycodone and also having a controlled substance without a prescription. So very messy all around.
I am just so shocked by this. And I guess you can't get charged with indecent exposure if all of your witnesses are dead.
I mean, I'm just really curious. Like, what was the motivation to leave the car and go into the cemetery that was also closed? I mean, there were a lot of steps here that I don't like. Were they maybe dipping their toes in the idea of necrophilia? Like, what was going on? Do we have any insight to that?
We have no insight to that. I tried contacting everybody. No one had any idea what they were thinking. The only thing I can assume is meth. Because meth will make you do lots of drugs. There were a lot of drugs on the 2 of them. They've both been or at least she's been charged with drug charges. He will be charged with drug charges. He's in the hospital right now, so they're going to put out a warrant for his arrest after he's out, after he's released. But let's just assume 2 people got really high and did something really stupid. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Do you think that you can like sue? Like, say that was like my mother's grave that they were found on top of. Like, I would want to pursue some legal action. Like, that's desecration. That's just rude.
That is very rude.
Who'd you sue? Do you sue them or do you sue you can't sue the cemetery. It's not their
I'm
fault.
suing everyone.
The Tigers were taken from Karl Mitchell for violating permit requirements, according to authorities.
Mitchell, during an exclusive jailhouse interview, saying he has the right to keep them.
My tigers are my emotional support animals.
Tigers as emotional support animals? Megan, is this real? And if so, how?
Oh, it's real, at least according to Mitchell. He's a disabled veteran and owner of Big Cat Encounters in Nevada, and he had 7 of these tigers. That's a lot of emotional support. Mitchell claims he has a letter from the Department of Veteran Affairs that confirms his side of the story. Meanwhile, all 7 tigers were seized from his property last week and are now at a wildlife sanctuary in Arkansas, while Mitchell is behind bars for resisting an officer and possessing firearm as a felon.
So, Megan, did he have permits or not?
That is a complicated question to ask Autumn, because at one point he did. There was a period in time where he did have permits, and then that expired, and then his girlfriend had a permit and that expired, and he's just been kind of going rogue ever since. So at this time, no, he did not have the proper permits required.
Okay. And I guess my next question is, can tigers legally be emotional support animals? Because if so, where do I sign up?
According to the American with Disabilities Act, they do not recognize tigers, unfortunately. So as service animals, they usually recognize dogs or small horses. And then as emotional support animals, you'll see like more tamed animals, more domestic animals. Like it could be a guinea pig, a rabbit, a dog, a cat. But tigers, that's a no.
All right. Well, there go my chances at having an emotional support tiger. But so I'm curious, what brought this to the attention of local law enforcement? Was it just this battle of permits? Did the permit expire and that's what triggered it? Or was there something going on with like the welfare of the animals?
It's a little bit of everything from what I understand. So first he didn't have the correct permits and those expired. And it's just like a complicated thing because he was not complying with officers and letting them onto his property. And so it was kind of like the permits happened a while ago, and they've seen videos of him just walking the tigers like loose around his property and meeting strangers, which you're not supposed to do even if you do have the proper permits.
Okay.
And then when they got there, they also saw that the animals did not have water in their bowls. The bowls were growing algae, and some of them seemed a little underweight and skinny. So there were concerns from all sides.
Makes sense. Okay. And so is it true that Karl Mitchell claims that the tigers once belonged to Tiger King Joe Exotic? Were we able to confirm that?
He claims that for sure. It's true that he claims it. Is it true that that happened? We're not so certain about that. Joe Exotic did respond on X saying that those tigers never came from him. Whether that's to be believed or not, I don't know. I think I believe him. I think these are just some other tigers that came from elsewhere.
So I want to ask you guys, is Karl Mitchell the Las Vegas Tiger King, or?
I mean, yeah. like I think this like who
Short
else?
answer, yes.
Short answer, yes. It's a dumbass guy who has like 15 tigers. Like I think that's exactly what this is. Which also, I feel like every time we hear a story about this or something similar to this, whether it's Joe or Carol or this guy, just own one tiger. One tiger that you can manage. Why that many? I don't get it. It pisses me off every time.
Anyone says a word, gives a dirty look, they're out. This is a court of law. It's not a MMA fight.
Eric, it seems like this court hearing was total chaos from beginning to end. What is the backstory?
Yeah, Autumn. So this was a sentencing hearing for the suspects in a New York State drive-by shooting. It was very tense, very emotional. Everyone had family in the courtroom, and eventually it just all boiled over. But it wasn't just the family members who were out of control.
Everyone sit down right now. Anyone who is standing will be out of this courtroom and not permitted back in. I said sit down. If you cannot control your emotions, leave. Respect the mother of the victim. Mr. Barry.
Violence abroad brings violence at home. I am speaking my word. You can silence college students and lawyers. The federal government can assault the First Amendment.
So, Eric, what is he talking about?
The man who we saw shouting at the very end, that is Timothy Berry. Great name. Timothy Berry is a basically like a public defender. The lawyer outburst is so weird. I've never seen something like this happen. So Paul Smith was sentenced first. He was sentenced to 21 years in prison. His lawyer didn't do anything out of the ordinary. It's just kind of your normal abide-by court hearing. But then they got to Arrington's sentencing. And at that point, his lawyer, Tim Berry, started speaking. And it got weirdly political. He started talking about like the state of the United States and how, like basically like people in these like poor areas and basically throughout the nation are kind of like stuck in cycles of violence and have so much access to guns that like it just leads to more and more violent acts. And then it kind of trickled into the rich taking over the White House and how it's ruining the Constitution. And then he touched on the war between Israel and Palestine. And at that point, the judge was like, we gotta shut this down. like we can't take this any further. Right. And that's what you see like in the video when he yells the quote, violence overseas brings violence in America, as they're dragging him out of the courtroom. I have no idea how this happened or why this happened, and you can tell like everybody just feels very uncomfortable, and they're just like, can we just get this hearing over with? Like, why is this happening right now?
Right. I mean, Megan, have you ever seen an outburst by a lawyer?
Autumn, this entire time I've been sitting here and thinking about how this lawyer lived my Aaron Brockovich level crash out dreams. Like, I don't know. Have you guys rewatched Aaron Brockovich recently?
I've never seen it, actually. I know of it, but like,
I've
I've never
that's
seen.
That's like a crime in itself. Actually, we should report on that.
I've seen a shockingly small amount of Julia Roberts movies, but continue.
No, so like, she's like working in a lawyer's office, and she gets really passionate about. I'm not going to recap the plot of Aaron Brockovich. That's not important right now. But anyway, her character, she just has this habit of like really crashing out at people that are being ridiculous. And I feel like this guy, the night before, he watched Aaron Brockovich, and he said, you know what? I'm on the edge right now. And
I got some things to say.
And if I'm gonna have my crash out, I'm gonna make it the big one.
I just wonder, like, is he gonna be disbarred for this? Like, or like maybe
Probably.
like in the state of New York? I'm so curious as to why. Now, granted, like he probably knew, like, oh, this hearing is gonna be filmed. Who knows where it's being streamed? Yeah. I have a platform right now where I get to speak, and I'm just gonna speak my mind. Which, you have full right to do that. But like dragging in other people into it's kind of messy. I don't know. It's just like I don't know how he recovers from this, or if he does.
It's interesting too, the video. You see Arrington, I think, just sort of like looking around, and they're on two totally different like wavelengths. He's just sort of like looking at his feet, and then he looks back at one point. He's like, "Can we just like get to the next part?
Can you guys just send me the prison, please? Can I get my 20 years and get out of here, please?"
Unfazed by all of this. So very interesting.
Very interesting, very weird. Once again, I've never seen anything like this. Like to argue down about stuff that's not related to your case in a court case is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's also just unusual to see a lawyer become emotional in court. They just have no attachment to it. Like like I said earlier, it's easy to understand. Like, who's the one? Taylor Schabusiness? That was one we covered recently, right? Like,
yeah. Oh my God. First of all, once again, 10 out of 10 name. Best name in the business. Best name in the Schabusiness. But yeah, Taylor Schabusiness. So she. Sidebar. So Taylor Schabusiness is currently in court for allegedly assaulting a prison sergeant while in prison. She's in prison for murder, and that's a whole other can of worms.
She scares me.
But she's very scary. But while on trial, or like while in the hearing, she just like out of nowhere just tries to like tackle her lawyer before she herself gets tackled by a bunch of court officials who take her to the ground. And this is, weirdly enough, not the first time this has happened. It actually happened during her murder trial like 2 years ago, where she actually gets like a good handle on her lawyer and tries to attack him before she gets tackled at that hearing. Now, part of me wonders if this is like some sort of like, guise to get a insanity plea. Like, to get out of prison.
Okay.
That was my theory with it. Like, if her lawyers actively told her to do that. Now, maybe not the second lawyer during this current trial. I feel like this was just her idea, because you look at his face and he's just like, all right. Like, you can tell he did not, he just doesn't expect anything else from her at this point. But yes,
They're like,
insane. It's hilarious.
Yeah, they're like, act crazy in court. No, I didn't mean physically attack me.
Right. Like, do something.
There's a line. Yeah.
So yeah, that one's wild.
And I imagine after being like locked up for like a while, you don't have as much as tension as you usually get. Like, I want some attention. I want to have a news story. I want the cameras to be on me. I probably would tackle my lawyer. I might sing a little song or do something, but you know what? It happens.
Dude, you just break out into a cabaret and just start going crazy. That'd be awesome.
Do you think they'd let me off if I like recited all of Hamilton?
Depends on how good you are. If you can hit those notes, if you can rap those bars, then yeah, your sentence is slashed.
Lin-Manuel Miranda himself will come and free me of my complaints.
Maybe.
Yo, I want you for my musical.
That would be a story. That would definitely be a story. Well, maybe, we'll have to keep an eye on this case and see if maybe this lawyer gets any gigs out of his performance.
That'd be great.
Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime.
The Doomsday mom, Lori Vallow Daybell, is back in court this week. This time over the death of her estranged fourth husband, Charles Daybell. Our senior investigative reporter, Anne Emerson, is in Phoenix covering the trial. She's been in the courtroom this week and has this update.
There was a line outside the Maricopa County courthouse that started at 5 o'clock in the morning, pre-dawn, to get into this trial. I mean, there were trial watchers that came in from all over the place. There was a lot of media that wanted to see what was going to happen when Lori Vallow Daybell got up there and represented herself. And I'm telling you, it was very compelling to see this scene. I mean, when you got in there, this was a big courtroom. The judge was very patient. There's a male-dominated jury that's been handpicked by Lori and the prosecution in this case. So she knows who she's talking to, and she immediately sets the tone that she has been dealing with this man, this fourth husband who is mean to her children and a bad dad and abusive and fights with her. And she just brought in her brother to protect her, that Alex Cox was there to make sure that nothing bad happened to her and the children. And so this is the argument she's giving him. And when she's talking about when Alex actually had to shoot and killed Charles Vallow, that she was upset about this, and she was crying as she's telling the jury and grabbing the Kleenex to show them the tears. And of course, the prosecution comes forward and goes, "That's ridiculous. This is not about protecting Lori. This is about premeditated, staged murder scene. This was a murder scene that her and her brother had already planned out because they wanted to get rid of Charles Vallow. They thought that, according to the prosecution, he was this dark spirit who possessed Charles Vallow's body, part of this doomsday theory. Now, and also that there was $1 million life insurance policy that she could collect on. And they were like, we can prove it. This was a crime scene. We have experts and evidence, and the evidence shows that there were no life-saving measures done, even though it took 47 minutes to call 911 by Alex Cox. And then it appears, according to the evidence, that he shot Charles Vallow when he was laying there on the ground. So these are very hard things that Lori's going to have to try and get around. We'll see what happens. I mean, they got 5 weeks. We've already lost 2 jurors this week. We've got 2 alternates left. So hopefully, these jurors are going to hang in there. But, Lori has nothing to lose. Honestly, she's already serving consecutive life sentences for killing her kids that she thought were zombies, as well as conspiring to kill a romantic rival. And the prosecution is just looking for justice for Charles. So let's see if they can get it.
Thanks for that update, Anne. And that's going to be a wrap for us. If you guys enjoyed the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And we want to know in the comments what you would do if you found 6 gallons of urine in your front yard. Or if you could have an exotic support animal, what would you choose? Let us know.
Please.
Bye.
See you guys.